Hey everybody, I'm going to give you a TLDR on the patch notes here because they are massive, just so you can know what is going on and the main things you need to know if you're not really too crazy interested in seeing the specifics. So if you are interested in seeing the specifics, I'll leave a link to the patch notes so you can look at it. But first thing I want to talk about are general game updates. So Infernal Hordes, super buffed, like in almost every way. The timers are going to happen faster. There's going to be more enemies spawning. It's going to be much more engaging, way less boring. And then it's going to be much easier to get the compasses. You'll be able to get them in all kinds of ways, like hell tides and everything now. And they increase the drop rate, so that's going to be pretty cool when it comes to that. There's also going to be these mini dungeons. They're called like hell breaches, so those are going to be pretty cool. That's another thing. There's also going to be another board similar to what we had in Season 4 that you would rank up, and then you get like extra items and stuff. You're going to have that as well too, but instead of doing hell tides, all you have to do is literally just kill elite bosses. So that's pretty cool. They also changed the way experience works. This is actually pretty important as well. So whenever you go to level, if you want to be going as efficient as possible, your goal is to be fighting enemies that are 30 levels above you. So in order to do this, when you're in World Tiers 1 and 2, you're going to want to go sit in a hell tide, and you're going to want to activate 3 profane mine cages because they now stack up to 3 times. Because they increased it to where instead of getting only 10 levels of bonus EXP, you can get up to 30. So before, the way it worked was if you were level 1 and you fought a level 100 monster, you would only get experience as if the monster was level 11. Now it's going to be you will get experience as if the monster was level 31. So that means that cap and like that area you're looking for, that sweet spot, if you're just trying to level efficiently, is going to be 30 levels up. So whenever you're doing nightmare dungeons, you just want to try to do 30 levels higher than whatever your current level is, and you'll be getting maximum EXP efficiency. Now, granted, you can keep going as high as you want, just because remember you do get increased glyph EXP as you go up higher in the tiers. But when it comes to EXP, that's ideally going to be what you're going to do. So for leveling, you'll probably just sit in hell tides, and then after that, you'll end up going into nightmare dungeons. But the hell tides became even more important just because of the fact that the profane mine cage is going to still be here, and it's going to stack up to 3 times. All right, so after that, there has been numerous changes made to every class. The main one that is the most important is Barbs got hella nerfed. So when I say hella nerfed, I mean like they went and reduced. Let me see here. Come up. All right, yeah. So they went and they reduced like everything in terms of like their passives. They nerfed. But they did actually increase some things. So I'm not saying that like they're nerfed into the ground. So let me make that clear real fast. Is they're not nerfed into the ground, but they nerfed all of the key passives. So they're like barbs are not going to be as strong. Not only that, it's not that they nerf them in a way that is going to make them feel worse to play significantly, but they're going to feel way more balanced compared to other classes because while they did nerf the key passes, which, so like you can see it right here, Walking Arsenal went from 12% to 8, 20 to 10, 20 to 10 on the attack speed, which is just Unbridled Rage, bonus damage reduced from 100 to 45, Unconstrained, bonus damage reduced from 75 to 35. You can see that these are like very massive nerfs to their key passives. They did buff other things, right? But you can see here like Imposing Presence, maximum health reduced from 612 to 18 to 510 to 15. So they've nerfed a whole plethora of things. But they also buffed all the other classes. So it's going to mean that while Barb is by no means going to be like, oh my god, you can't play it or anything like that, it's going to still be fine. It's going to still be fun. But it's going to feel much more equal to other classes because other classes got buffed by about 25%. So if you like go down, one of the general changes was for Druid is that they're going to get 25% increased skill damage from their willpower, and they also get increased damage at a rate of 1% per 8 willpower instead of the 10. And Barb is just staying at 10, whereas the other classes, Rogue's going to be at 9, and then Druid, Sorc, and Necro are going to be at 8. So not trying to bog you down with like any kind of crazy numbers here, but they're just essentially buffing they're buffing all the other classes' core stats because they were trying not to nerf Barb into the ground by any means. They were just trying to make it more balanced, right? And then you have this one right here, Bash Cleave, reduced from 85, 95 to 100 to 15, 17.5, and 20%. So the whole Bash Cleave thing people were doing got pretty nerfed on the tempering. So yes, there's just a lot of nerfs. If you played Barb, it'll do you well to see exactly what they changed. The class is not ruined. Don't let people tell you that, but yeah. But then you look at like Druid, for example. They made a massive change to Druid as well that I think is important, and it's with Shepherd's aspect. So Shepherd's was kind of the meta, I guess, for a little while, but they have now changed it. So it's like Core and Wrath skills deal an additional 5 to 10% per companion. Companion skills deal 5. Now it's companion skills will deal 5 to 10% damage per companion. So this is now a companion build legendary. So what that means is in order to make up for the fact they were going to be losing this massive damage multiplier, they actually like buffed all of the core and mastery skills. So you can see here, like Hurricane 187 to 346, Lightning Storm 40 to 74, Tornado 35 to 65. Now I will say that the majority of storm skills are probably going to see they could potentially see a nerf here. I'm not 100% certain how nerf they're going to be, because they did cap Thunderstruck, which takes it down to 60%, but they added in this new unique called Mjolnir's Ring, and that's going to give you a 100% increased damage boost that lightning builds did not have access to before, as well as unlimited spirit while Cataclysm is active. And they added in a new tempering efficiency called cooldown reduction for Cataclysm, or it's called ultimate efficiency, so you actually can reduce the cooldown of all this stuff. So it's definitely going to be pretty interesting. One buff that really did kind of stand out to me, though, is Shred. Like, look at this, 77 to 143. I think Shred is going to be pretty solid. They also buffed Landslide by a little bit, doubled the number of pillars, total damage 70 to 280. So Landslide is looking kind of crazy right now for the Druid. Companion Druid is also going to be absolutely insane. I know that sounds weird, but yes, this is Companion Druid. I don't know if it's going to be the best Druid build, but it will be one of the top tier Druid builds this season for sure. Just because of the Shepherd's changes, plus they also made some changes to Storm's Companion, which is kind of nuts as well. But I don't want to get into too much of the class-specific stuff, not to just bog down and make this video go for too long. Yes, but interesting stuff we have here. So another thing is Necromancers got a decent amount of lucky hit changes. This is probably the main thing, is that your lucky hit effects are going to be increased. When it comes to Rogue received the least amount of changes because they're in probably the best spot. One thing that is interesting about Sorcerer, though, is Sorcerer received some pretty massive changes. Overall, just kind of buffs across the board. So if you play a Sorcerer, it's going to be a pretty good time for you. They did change, don't get me wrong, they did change a lot of stuff. So like, regardless of the class you're playing, it will, it will benefit you to come read these patch notes. But yeah, that's going to be the next thing. Is Sorcerers did get pretty big buffs. Sorcerers are going to be very good this season. They also got the 25% increased skill damage from the primary core thing, and then they just got a lot of buffs, especially to their. So you can see here, so Firewall goes from 160 to 230, Meteor 80 to 96, Incinerate 84 to 100. Fireball only went up a little bit, but that's because their new uniques are actually kind of crazy. The Fireball unique changes are going to be crazy. I'll get into that in a moment. But you can see here, Chain Lightning. Ice Armor is pretty interesting. Max Life base shield increased from 25 to 40%. No longer gains increased shield based on damage. So let's keep coming down to... Alright, so Veer's Mastery. So when you critical strike an enemy with a shock skill, you can charge and take 25% less damage. So that's kind of a buff there. While charged, critical strikes have a 10% chance to cause damage to arc for 250% of the damage. So kind of interesting. The Veer's Mastery change there. I'm kind of curious to see how that ends up panning out. Legendary aspects. Let's see here. Where is it at? Paragon, sorry, yeah, I went right over it. So critical strike bonus changed from 1% per intelligence to 1% per 20 intelligence, and now caps at 80% instead of 40%. So pretty big buff to the Burning Instinct. Ceaseless Conduit, so this capped at 60, it now caps at 120. This caps at 30, now caps at 60. So yeah, like that's kind of nuts, right? Like you can see like how big these Paragon buffs are for Sorcerer. Tempering updates. So Following temporary affixes have been moved from existing temporaries and onto new recipes. So Druid magic innovation, so hurricane size, lightning storm duration, petrify. So this came from storm augments, from earth augments. So they definitely have moved a little bit of things around. So that's going to be pretty interesting. So in-game bosses are going to be better. You will actually be able to respawn the uber bosses without having to leave the dungeon. They changed Beast in the Ice, so it's no longer... it fights now like closer to a standard dungeon, but you no longer have to craft a sigil to enter the fight. So you don't have to have a sigil anymore. You just have to go into the dungeon, but it will still require a summoning material, but you don't have to like spend any like summoning stuff. Summoning Varshan now only requires malignant hearts. Trembling hands, blackened femurs, and gurgling heads have been removed from the game, so these aren't a thing anymore. So it's going to be simpler to get Varshan. Yeah, and then eternal characters that have the body parts can convert them at the alchemist, so that's going to be pretty cool. And then when it comes to the boss ladder, this is kind of interesting. They no longer are going to drop rare items, which is going to give you more of a spot. What's the word I'm looking for? It's going to give more chances at dropping more legendaries, because the rare items are no longer going to take up drop spots. So you should be getting more legendaries, and then you're also going to be getting more gold from them as well. They also made it to where tormented bosses drop 5 times as many boss materials. They also balanced it to have loot parity with each other. All bosses have 5 chances to drop a mythic at 1.5% chance each, and a total of 77.5% chance to drop a mythic unique for the tormented bosses. The resulting effect of this change is that the bosses have a chance to drop multiple mythic uniques instead of just one. So that's kind of interesting. Like every 100 bosses you might actually see like a double drop or something like that. The cost to summon a tormented boss has been reduced from 2 Stygian stones to 1. So this is a pretty nice change as well. Helltide, it's going to be easier to get the Baneful Hearts, like I was saying. They reduced in World Tiers 1 and 2. It also reduced how many it takes to open up the Blood Maiden, so that's pretty interesting. Let's see. Okay, unique and mythic items can now be acquired from Whisper Caches, so that's pretty cool. Purveyor of Curiosities and Tortured Gifts in the Helltide. So I guess before you weren't able to get unique and mythic uniques in these, but now you can, so that's going to be super sweet. The chance to find mythic uniques through all non-boss means has been increased, so who knows, maybe we'll see random mythic uniques in the wild now. That would be kind of cool. Anyway, so that's going to be it. Now it's just like a bunch of miscellaneous fixes. I want to come down now to the last major change to talk about, and it is that almost every single unique in the game has been changed, right? So if you look here, you can see the mythic uniques have been changed. So spending your primary resource reduces resource cost of skills and increases it up to 50%. So that's still going to be the same, but they changed the secondary stats a little bit here. So it had lucky hit, crit strike damage. Now it has attack speed, critical strike chance, lucky hit, and core skills on it instead of core skill damage. So that's going to be a little bit better. Doombringer has also been changed a little bit. So the damage has been buffed on it. It also reduces their damage dealt by 30% instead of 20%. You also have a chance to heal still, damage reduction, max life, and all stats. They got rid of the useless core damage, the useless percent damage, so that's actually pretty cool. So you can see that there's like some pretty massive changes. You'll have to check them out. And keep in mind that these are kind of game bending. So I want to show you guys one they showed in this, and this is also pretty cool for myself because I play a lot of Companion Druid. But let me come down here to Storm's Companion. So Storm's Companion, it says 77.5% lucky hit chance for the Pack Leader Spirit Boon. This works in the way that you would not expect it to. It's actually increasing the lucky hit chance of the Spirit Boon itself. So normally when you read increase lucky hit chance, it's increasing your lucky hit like coefficient. So like, for example, if I'm using Claw and I get increased lucky hit chance, it increases Claw's ability to proc a lucky hit, not the overall lucky hit chance. What this does is actually increases the overall lucky hit chance. So normally, Pack Leader has up to a 25% chance to proc the Pack Leader Spirit Boon. With this, it's going to take it up to where once this is Masterwork to 12, all the way up to where you're going to have like a 60% chance to proc your companion cooldown resets whenever you crit with the pack leader spirit boon. So that's kind of insane, right? Like it's actually like bending the rules of the game now, and there's actually a few of those that are going to be doing that. So keep that in mind. So like we look at like Hunter Zenith, 4 to Predatory Instinct, 2 to Heightened Senses, 1 to Quick Shift, 82 Willpower. So that's pretty interesting. Whenever you use a shape, yeah, it's like these are just wild. Like, and obviously some of the changes aren't going to be as good as others, but overall they tried to make sure that the stats that were put on these were useful, right? Because so overpower damage isn't useful for this. Damage while shapeshifting isn't useful. Lightning resistance also isn't useful. But +3 to defensive posture, plus 1500 armor, plus max life, those are all way more useful and are going to help you actually be able to use these. You look at this one, Wild Impulses, that's actually just a straight up damage increase. I don't know why they left the lightning resistance on this. They took off poison and switched it to lightning, I guess kind of, it makes sense. But then it plus more maximum resource, plus more. So this is still better. And they also upped it to like 35% from 25%. So yeah, just keep in mind, you're going to have to come through here, check out your class's uniques, and see what all has been changed. But anyways, guys, that has been it. I know this went a little long. I was trying to make this as fast as possible, but these are just a massive amount of patch notes. So thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.